The year I turned 50, Gu Yunche had an affair with one of his female students. When he brought a woman 15 years his junior home and tried to force me out of the house with nothing, my world collapsed. Back then, to allow him to focus on his career, I gave up the opportunity my professor offered me to study abroad. I willingly stepped back to manage the household, care for his parents, and raise our son. Later, I injured my right hand saving him, and I could never hold a scalpel again. After all my decades of dedication and sacrifice, if not for merit, at least for the hard work I put in, I never imagined he would treat me like this. I cast a pleading glance toward my in-laws and my son, yet, my in-laws, shedding their usual rigid and old-fashioned ways, suddenly embraced a twisted sense of democracy, urging me to leave with nothing so Gu Yunche could have his happy ending with his new love. The son I raised single-handedly actually had the nerve to call me shabby and unattractive, telling me to step aside for Gu Yunche's happiness in his later years. In utter despair, I signed the divorce papers, only for them to immediately throw me out of the house, leaving me to freeze to death in that winter. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in 1980. Back then, my father-in-law had just broken his leg, my mother-in-law had just been diagnosed with cancer, and my son was about to start first grade. Overwhelmed, I looked at everything before me, then frantically examined my perfectly intact right hand, and burst into tears. This time, I won't sacrifice everything for anyone else. I'm going to pick up the scalpel again, dedicate myself to medicine, and heal the sick and wounded. With a loud clang, the shabby wooden door was kicked open furiously by Gu Yunche. He rushed over in a few strides, pointing at me viciously. As if he could barely restrain himself from slapping me across the face, I gave Muga that 200 yuan of my own free will. If you dare to corner her in the dormitory for money again, don't blame me for what happens next. I looked up at Gu Yunche's face. All the fluttering heartbeats and fawning affection from my past life had now turned into pure disgust and revulsion. The scene from my past life. When the 53-year-old Gu Yunche showed up with a heavily pregnant Jiang Muge to force me into a divorce, felt as vivid as if it were happening right before my eyes. Smugly holding the impeccably dressed Jiang Muge in his arms, he told me with utter contempt that the Jiang family had turned their fortunes around with his help, and from then on, he and Jiang Muge could just coast along and still rise effortlessly to the top. He told me to be sensible, sign the divorce papers myself, and get the hell out. My in-laws, always fawning over the powerful and trampling on the weak, viciously cursed at me to please Jiang Muge. They told me to get out immediately and make room for her. My son, following their example, cruelly tied up his own mother, who refused to grant a divorce, and threw me into the storage shed for the sake of his own future. He gave me no food or water, vowing he wouldn't stop until I signed the divorce papers. Starved to the brink of death, I begged them on my knees to let me go, but my son callously took a knife, cut my finger, and forced me to press my bloody fingerprint onto the document. The moment my in-laws heard that Gu Yunche had given Jiang Muge $200, the pickled vegetables in their bowls instantly lost all appeal. Yunche, they said, $200 is 3 months of your wages. How could you? Gu Yunche glared at his mother-in-law with a dark expression. You don't understand, right now. Muge is just a poor student, but sooner or later, I can help the Jiang family turn things around. With the Jiang family's influence, my own meteoric rise will be just around the corner. Besides, Yuechan gets a salary too, doesn't she? If you two just tighten your belts a little, surely you can scrape together 200 yuan. Hearing Gu Yunche's words, my mother-in-law hesitated, then turned her gaze to me and shifted her tone. Yuechan, you're in the wrong here. That poor girl Muge has it hard. She's Yunche's student, so it's only natural for him to help her when she's in trouble. Don't be so petty, or people will laugh at us. I let out a scornful laugh, my eyes settling on my in-laws. My father-in-law had broken his leg, and his monthly medical expenses came to nearly 20 yuan. My mother-in-law was diagnosed with breast cancer. Even though it's in the early stages, surgery is still the safest course of action. I discussed it with Gu Yunche before. He said we should save a bit each month and take her for the surgery once the weather gets warmer. For months, our whole family has been scrimping and saving, stretching a single dish of pickles over 3 days, yet he just casually hands over 200 yuan like it's nothing. In my past life, I swallowed my pride and endured it all, only to be met with his heartless betrayal in the end. In this life, whoever wants this scumbag can have him. I lowered my gaze with a cold laugh, raised my hand, and smashed the only meat dish on the table onto the floor. My salary supporting your parents is already more than enough charity. I have no obligation to support your mistress. Since you want to be a kept man by Jiang Muge, why not make it official? Let's get a divorce. With that, I turned and ran out. I paid no mind to the furious curses of Gu Yunche behind me, nor to the heart-wrenching cries of Gu Jingxia. I sprinted all the way and managed to reach Professor Zhao's office just before she left for the day. Professor Zhao, about the opportunity for studying abroad you mentioned last time, is it still available to me? Professor Zhao looked at me with pleasant surprise, bent down to pull the application form from her desk drawer, and said, I've been waiting for you to come and ask. Looking at Professor Zhao's kind face, I felt a lump in my throat and my voice choked up. In my past life, she earnestly talked to me about the future, telling me this training opportunity was rare, go study for 5 years, and I'd come back at least a deputy director. She also said a woman shouldn't be trapped in the trivialities of family life, and that I should go see the wider world, yet I failed her kindness. For the sake of my family, I gave up that one chance to change my fate, even resigned from the hospital job, and went home willingly to toil for them like a beast of burden. In the end, I was ridiculed by my entire family and met a bitter, unresolved end. I quickly filled in my name on the application form, looked up at Professor Zhao with utmost sincerity, and said, You're absolutely right. This time, I won't let anyone sway me from my original purpose, to dedicate myself to healing and saving lives. On the way back, it was as if a heavy burden had been lifted. My steps felt free and light. As I reached the front door, the long mist aroma of stewed meat wafted towards me. With my in-laws being ill and Gu Yunche not contributing his salary to the household, we had been scrimping and saving for months. We hadn't had stewed meat in ages. I wondered what guest had come today to make my in-laws splurge like this. I stood on tiptoe and peered through the window. My usually stingy mother-in-law was piling stewed pork belly into Jiang Mugei's bowl. Eat up, she said. Yunche told me you've been skipping meat to save money. Today, you eat as much as you want. Jiang Mugei didn't stand on ceremony. He took big bites of the marbled meat, and in the blink of an eye, half his bowl of rice was gone. The in-laws watched with eager eyes, swallowing hard. Gu Jingxia's chopsticks, poised to pick up more meat, were firmly pushed down by his mother-in-law. Gu Yunche gazed at Jiang Mugei with unmistakable admiration, his eyes holding a less than innocent look. I shoved the door open forcefully and deliberately lingered in the doorway, letting the icy wind howl into the room. My mother-in-law shot me a disapproving look. If you had the nerve to run off, what are you doing back here? Ignoring her dramatic eye roll, I pulled up a stool next to Jiang Mugei, grabbed a piece of meat from the plate, and stuffed it in my mouth. Miss Jiang, are you not aware my mother-in-law has cancer and can't eat greasy food? If you feel bad about it, just give back the 200 yuan Gu Yunche gave you. Buying all this meat is just a waste. Jiang Mugei looked at me awkwardly, the food in her mouth stuck between a swallow and a spit. She immediately stood up and fumbled in her pocket for a long moment before finally pulling out the crumpled 200 yuan. Reluctantly, she extended the money toward the older woman. Auntie, I came today to repay the debt. Teacher Gu has already been so kind to me. I can't put him in an awkward position. The mother-in-law shot me a fierce glare, her hand clutching a corner of the bills. She looked at Gu Yunche, too afraid to take it, yet unwilling to let it go. Seeing this, I quickly reached out and took the money from Jiang Mugei's hand. You really shouldn't make things difficult for him. If you're so fond of Gu Yunche, you should help him look after his household more. Just look at all the things that need managing for this whole family. He's going to marry you sooner or later anyway. You might as well get used to it now. Jiang Mugei stared at me in shock, her face flushing crimson. Madam, Xinyue-chan, will you ever stop? Gu Yunche dragged me roughly into the next room, his face flushed with fury. What the hell are you trying to do? I let out a cold laugh. Was I not clear enough? I want a divorce. Starting tomorrow, I'll be living at my workplace until you agree to the divorce. Gu Yunche shot me a venomous glare and slammed the door shut in a rage. Staring at Gu Yunche straight, proud back, I let out a scornful laugh. He'd soon learn that the kind of love he wanted couldn't be cultivated in the daily grind of mundane life. Early the next morning, I took my packed belongings and moved into the hospital dormitory. I thought that, given Jiang Mugei's capabilities, she would grit her teeth and at least hold out until I went abroad for further training before pulling any stunts. To my surprise, I had only been at the hospital for 3 days when Gu Yunche showed up at my door. Xinyue-chan, have you finished making a scene? He said. If you have, then come home at once. I closed the medical file in front of me and looked up at the weary Gu Yunche. So, you've decided to get a divorce. The Gu household has been quite the scene these past 3 days, in a bold attempt to win Gu Yunche's favor. Jiang Muge actually moved into the Gu residence and took on the task of caring for the entire family, young and old. The pity is, she was accustomed to a life of luxury from childhood, and as soon as the Jiang family fell from grace, she immediately latched onto Gu Yunche as her protector. Having never known hardship and lacking any real skills, she thought she could solve the Gu family's problems with nothing but sheer enthusiasm. She was downright naive. The night I left, in a bid to prove herself, she splurged on snacks and toys for Gu Jingxia, and even bought ready-to-eat dishes and pickles for her in-laws. The lights in the Gu house stayed on past 10 that night, filled with constant laughter. Perhaps joy turned to sorrow, as the mother-in-law, having eaten food that was too greasy and salty, suddenly developed a high fever in the middle of the night. Simple physical cooling methods were useless, and in a panic, Gu Yunche had no choice but to rush her to the hospital. At the hospital, the doctor informed Gu Yunche directly that his mother-in-law needed immediate surgery to save her life. With Gu Yunche away, Jiang Muge was left to care for both her father-in-law and Gu Jingxia. Despite her attentive care, her father-in-law managed to cut his forehead, knock out a tooth, and fracture his hand. With both in-laws hospitalized, Jiang Muge and Gu Yunche were run off their feet at the hospital. Having no time to look after Gu Jingxia, they had no choice but to leave him with the next-door neighbors. The neighbor's child was a good-for-nothing layabout. Rumor has it that this morning, Gu Jingxia didn't even go to school and instead followed that kid into the mountains to hunt for game. Gu Yunche sighed wearily, his brow furrowed, his tone softening. I won't get a divorce. I know I was wrong. I'll hand over my entire salary to you from now on. Please, just forgive me this once. Mom just had surgery and her recovery will take a long time. Dad's health isn't great either, and there's a lot of heavy work around the house that still falls on you. Jingxia has started elementary school now and needs help with his homework too. Why don't you just take this chance to quit your job? I can support our family just fine. I stared coldly at Gu Yunche. This was exactly how he had tried to persuade me in my past life. I believed it, and then what happened? I quit my job. And Jiang Muge immediately got the chance to study abroad. The very next year, Gu Yunche found a way to follow her overseas. Abroad, they were an inseparable pair, living a carefree and romantic life. Gu Yunche poured all his money into helping the Jiang family get back on their feet, not sending a single penny back home. With no steady job, I could only scrape by doing odd jobs to make ends meet. In the dead of winter, my hands were frostbitten and blackened. Yet I couldn't bring myself to buy a pair of gloves. I was even more reluctant to eat the food myself, saving every bit for my in-laws and Gu Jingxia. Several times, I collapsed from exhaustion right at my doorstep. When Gu Jingxia called Gu Yunche to ask for money, he would just hem and haw before hanging up. Later, they returned to the country in all their finery, only for Gu Yunche to turn around and blame me for not taking good care of his parents and son. I clenched my fist, my tone dripping with sarcasm. Why don't we just hire a nanny? Our combined salaries can certainly cover it. I think Jiang Muge would be perfect. She's young, we know her background, and your parents adore her. How could you even suggest she be a nanny? She's a top student. Her hands are meant to hold a scalpel, not be buried in domestic drudgery. I looked at my rough hands with a pang of bitterness. Wasn't I a top student? Is this what my hands are meant for? To be buried in the drudgery of daily life? Gu Yunche, your favoritism towards Jiang Muge has gone way too far. Gu Yunche tried to defend himself. That's not what I meant. I curled my lips into a mocking smile and pulled a form from the drawer. I'm going abroad. Gu Yunche snatched the form in astonishment, his voice suddenly rising. This spot should have been Muge's. I looked at Gu Yunche calmly, though my hand under the table was clenched into a tight fist. What do you mean, should have been hers? Jiang Muge is just an intern. Why should such a great opportunity go to her? Is she even capable? Gu Yunche's chest heaved with anger. He stared at me, taking several deep breaths before finally calming down. He reached out to grab my hand. You should go to the leadership yourself and tell them you're giving up the advanced training spot. Let Muge have it. Muge is young. If her skills are lacking, I can teach her myself. She needs this opportunity more than you do. I coldly pulled my hand away from Gu Yunche's grasp. On what grounds? I'm a core member of this hospital's staff. That spot is rightfully mine. What does Jiang Muge have to offer? Just because she slept her way into your bed, you think you can use your position to give her this opportunity? That's a complete lie. After shouting, Gu Yunche cleared his throat awkwardly and lowered his voice. Muge and I have a completely innocent relationship. Stop spreading these rumors. I'm stopping you from going for the sake of our family. How can you be so heartless as to abandon your home just for a training opportunity? Gu Yunche has always been a master of psychological manipulation, constantly shifting the blame onto me, making me feel guilty and remorseful, so I'd foolishly let them take whatever they wanted. In my past life, I was far too responsible. I couldn't bear to see Gu Jingzhe suffer, and so I walked right into the trap Gu Yunche had laid for me, step by step. In this life, I'll only do what I want to do. What does anyone else have to do with me? I looked at Gu Yunche coldly. Gu Jingzhe is your flesh and blood. Your parents didn't give birth to me or raise me. I owe them no filial duty. After the divorce, I'll make sure every last penny of Gu Jingzhe's child support is paid to you. I have work to do, Dr. Gu. You should go back and take care of your parents. Gu Yunche stared at me, his brow furrowed, a palpable darkness threatening to spill from his eyes. He was just about to unleash a torrent of curses when a sudden commotion erupted outside, followed by the door to my office being kicked in with a loud bang. The man glared at Gu Yunche with a vicious glint in his eyes, a knife in his hand. I'm going to kill you. Before I could even process what was happening, Gu Yunche suddenly grabbed my arm and yanked me in front of him. Cowering behind me, he gasped frantically, Yue-chan, he's clearly after me, not you, just stall him for me, we'll be safe once the police get here. In my past life, I fell for Gu Yunche's lies, I shielded him with my own life, and when the man charged at me wildly with a knife, I chose to sacrifice myself to save Gu Yunche. The man nearly severed my right hand. I could never hold a scalpel again. I lowered my gaze to stare at my right hand, then turned and seized Gu Yunche's arm, shoving him away with all my strength. In this life, I will not abandon the medical career I love for this man. Gu Yunche glared at me with a ferocious expression. Shin Yue-chan, have you lost your mind? I took a step back, looking coldly at Gu Yunche's disheveled state. Gu Yunche, did you ever love me? Gu Yunche froze, but before he could utter a word, the menacing man was upon him. The man was hell-bent on taking Gu Yunche's life. Each swing of his blade carried terrifying force. Gu Yunche had no chance to dodge. He was slashed all over, covered in blood, a sight that chilled me to the bone. Just as the man raised the knife to slash down at Gu Yunche's hand, Jiang Mugei's voice suddenly rang out from outside the door. Let go of Professor Gu. I've already called the police. The man shot a cold glance at Jiang Mugei, spat out the words filthy adulterers, and without a moment's hesitation, severed Gu Yunche's hand. Gu Yunche let out a blood-curdling scream before collapsing into unconsciousness. When the police arrived, the man offered no resistance. He simply fixed a venomous stare on Jiang Mugei and hissed, "You little bitch, you're the one who killed my daughter." Gu Yunche was the lead surgeon for her operation. To give you practice, he treated my daughter's life as worthless, leaving her to die alone on the operating table. Jiang Mugei's face instantly turned deathly pale, shaking her head. Her voice trembled as she said, "I don't understand what you're talking about." The man snorted coldly, "Only by making a huge scene will the truth come to light. You little bitch, I'm not afraid to die. I'm going to expose the dirty deeds of you two adulterers, and we'll all go to hell together." Jiang Mugei covered her ears in terror, her emotions spiraling out of control. "That's a lie, I didn't do it." Seeing Jiang Mugei like that, my heart clenched painfully. In my past life, after the incident, a close colleague came to visit me at home. She hesitated before speaking. "Yue-chan, it's a good thing you resigned. Who knows what other blame they would have pinned on you. Just focus on recovering. It's quite nice to stay home, taking care of your husband and children. Don't pay any mind to the gossip out there. It's all nonsense." At the time, I was completely baffled by what I heard. When I tried to ask her more, she just clammed up. Later, Jiang Mugei went abroad for further studies, and Gu Yunche followed suit not long after. The whole matter just faded away without a trace. Looking back now, I'm sure the blame for the death Jiang Mugei caused has been pinned squarely on me. Dr. Shen, Dr. Gu's surgery is far too complex. In our entire hospital, only you and Dr. Gu are qualified to perform it. You. Hearing the other doctor's words, I snapped back to attention, my gaze settling on Jiang Mugei. I'm still a bit shaken from the scare earlier. I'm in no state to perform surgery right now. Dr. Jiang is Dr. Gu's star pupil. Perhaps we should let Dr. Jiang take over. Jiang Mugei stared at me in panic, her lips trembling as she tried to speak. The other doctors immediately chimed in. If Dr. Shen can't do it, then Dr. Jiang should. Dr. Gu has always looked out for you. Dr. Jiang, you're his only student, and he's gone to bat for you so many times, pushing for you to be the lead surgeon against all opposition. You can handle this one too. I know you can." Jiang Mugei hung her head, conflicted, then turned and dropped to her knees with a thud before me. "Mrs. Gu, I'm begging you, please save Dr. Gu, he's your husband, if you don't help him. His career as a surgeon is over. I stared coldly at Jiang Muge. So you do know he's my husband. If you know he has a family, why don't you keep your distance? Jiang Muge froze, tears streaming down her face in pairs. That's not true. There's nothing between Dr. Gu and me. We just have a teacher-student relationship. You can't just make such vile accusations. I sneered. Slander. I'd say the whole hospital knows about your little affair. Everyone but me, apparently, in my past life. I was too naive. I worked alongside Gu Yunche for so long and never once suspected him and Jiang Muge. This time, I'm going to strike first and make sure neither of them can show their faces in this hospital again. Jiang Muge shot me a venomous glare, then struggled to her feet, putting on a brave face. If you're heartless enough to refuse to save Dr. Gu, then I'll do it myself. Watching Jiang Muge's back as he walked towards the operating room, I curled my lips into a scornful smirk. With Jiang Muge's level of skill, Gu Yanch's hand is definitely beyond saving. He deserves to experience every bit of the suffering I endured in my past life. Why can't I even make a fist with my hand? Who performed my surgery? Was it Xinyue-chan? With her skill level, reconnecting all the nerves in such a short time wouldn't have been difficult at all. She did it on purpose. She wanted me dead. I want to see her. I demand to see her right now. Watching Gu Yanch's frantic outburst in the hospital room, I clenched my right hand. In my past life, the surgery on me was personally performed by Gu Yunche. At the time, his explanation was that the nerves in my hand were completely severed. He claimed he did his absolute best, but could only ensure I could manage daily life. I would never be able to pick up a scalpel again. Back then, I never once doubted him. I never imagined that for Jiang Muge's sake, he would become so depraved as to tamper with the surgery itself. Professor Gu, it wasn't your wife who performed your surgery, it was me. You. How could you possibly have performed such a complex procedure? You haven't even finished your residency. How were you allowed in the operating room? Jiang Muge, who gave you the nerve? Do you have any idea you've ruined my hand? Gu Yanch's roar was so loud I could hear it clearly through the hospital room door. So he knew perfectly well that Jiang Muge, as an intern, wasn't qualified to be the lead surgeon. How dare he let her operate on someone else? Then, Jiang Muge shrank back in fear, her voice trembling. It was Xinyue-chan who refused to perform the surgery. I was afraid of missing the critical treatment window. That's why a loud clang suddenly echoed from the hospital room. Gu Yunche hurled the thermos flask beside him directly at Jiang Muge. Do you even know what the golden hour for treatment is? Do you really think you got this internship on your own merit? Without me, you're nothing. Jiang Muge, my hand is ruined. I'll never hold a scalpel again, and your career is over too. How are you going to save the Jiang family now? Jiang Muge wept pitifully, her face streaked with tears. In Gu Yanch's eyes, there was no trace of the tenderness from before, only pure, unadulterated hatred. I slowly pushed open the hospital room door, placed the fresh medication by the entrance, and said to Jiang Muge with feigned concern, "Don't forget to change Dr. Gu's dressings. You're the attending physician. Why do I have to be the one to deliver the medication?" Jiang Muge glared at me with red-rimmed eyes, her body trembling slightly. Xinyue-chan, you did this on purpose, didn't you? You deliberately provoked me into performing the surgery on Dr. Gu. You deliberately made him resent me. Deliberately stopped him from helping our Jiang family rise again. I never imagined you could be so vicious. I let out a cold snort. Don't you know your own limitations? If I couldn't do it, you could have called in a surgeon from another hospital. My condition yesterday really wasn't good. I didn't dare gamble with Gu Yanch's career. I never thought you'd be so reckless as to attempt such a difficult procedure. Or was it deliberate? Did you think that if Gu Yanch's hand was ruined, you could take his place and help the Jiang family yourself? That's a vicious lie. Jiang Muge roared at me furiously. I had no idea we could call in doctors from other hospitals. I only stepped into the operating room because no one else was helping Dr. Gu. None of you told me anything. You're all in on this, setting me up. I glanced up at Gu Yunche, whose face was deathly pale, and deliberately taunted. And here I thought your precious student was so brilliant. Turns out she's a complete fraud. Gu Yunche stared at me, his lips parting as he was about to speak, when a sudden knock sounded at the door. 2 police officers stood at the door. They showed their badges and stared sternly at Jiang Muge. Comrade Jiang Muge, you need to come with us. Jiang Muge was detained by the police on suspicion of involvement in a major medical malpractice incident. Upon learning of the situation, the hospital's immediate response was to dismiss Jiang Muge. As Gu Yunche was also implicated in the matter, the hospital placed him on administrative leave. With Jiang Muge taken away, The responsibility for following up on Gu Yunch's post-operative care fell to me. Looking at the gruesome, horrifying wound on Gu Yunch's palm, I carefully sprinkled the medicine onto it. The suturing wasn't done very well. It might take longer to heal. Try not to get it wet or use that hand for the next few days. Gu Yunche stared at me with red-rimmed eyes. Are you happy now? Are you satisfied, seeing me like this because of Jian Muge? I pulled the bandage tight, a bitter smile tugging at my lips as I watched Gu Yunche wince in pain. What does my satisfaction matter? At least Jian Muge showed you mercy and left you alive. What about that little girl? I heard she was only in her teens. What were you thinking when you had Jian Muge operate on her? I stood up, looking down at him with contempt. Gu Yunche, you're a murderer. Gu Yunche struggled to sit up urgently. No, it wasn't like that. It was just a minor surgery. I never expected Jian Muge to be so incompetent. He looked up at me. I overestimated her. I thought she had the same talent as you. With great effort, he reached out and grabbed my lab coat. I know I was wrong. In my current state, I'll need you to look after the family from now on. Don't worry, I'll work hard to recover. I believe it won't be long before I can pick up a scalpel again. Mom just had surgery, so don't tell her about this yet. Try to keep it from Dad as well. When you get a chance, go pick up Jingsha. I'm craving your homemade congee again. After work, head home to make it and bring me a bowl. I haven't been eating or sleeping well since you've been gone these past few days. I think I've even lost weight. With a sneer, I yanked my white coat out of Gu Yunch's grasp and handed him the divorce papers from the Civil Affairs Bureau. I've already signed. Before I go abroad, do me the favor of coming with me to finalize it. Gu Yunche tore up the divorce papers in a fury. I told you I'm not getting a divorce. Xinyue-chan, have you no shame? How dare you use something like this to force me into a divorce? I've already apologized. What more do you want? I'm warning you, don't push your luck. I lowered my gaze to the torn pieces of the agreement on the floor and let out a sorrowful sigh. That's just how it is in this day and age. Getting a divorce is shameful, but having an affair isn't. If a man admits his mistake, a woman should forgive him unconditionally. I stepped on the torn pieces of the agreement and stared indifferently at Gu Yunche. Fine, if you refuse the divorce, I'll file for it the moment I'm back in 5 years. You're on your own, Gu Yunche. Gu Yunche waited for me to finish, then yelled at the top of his lungs, you wouldn't dare. Don't you dare go abroad. If you dare leave the country, I'll make sure everyone here knows you're a selfish woman who abandoned her family and child just for her own career. You have no shame. Are you in such a hurry to divorce me because you found some other man? Xinyue-chan, you are not allowed to go abroad. Who's going to take care of this whole family if you leave? I stared coldly at Gu Yunche's selfish face. That last sentence is what you really care about, isn't it? Gu Yunche, I am not your family's maid. I am my own person, and I will not sacrifice my dreams and career for anyone ever again. In my past life, I swallowed my pride and endured everything, held back by traditional beliefs that made me tolerate the intolerable. Given a second chance at life, the truth I've come to realize is this. Only those who are free and selfish can live with a clear conscience and find true contentment. I turned and walked out, but as I reached the hospital room door, a pair of grubby little hands blocked my path. Gu Jingsha looked up with a tear-streaked, dirty face, his voice trembling. Mom, are you abandoning me too? The day I gave birth to Gu Jingsha, I had a difficult labor with massive hemorrhaging. To save money, my mother-in-law insisted the doctors not perform surgery on me. I suffered in that hospital room for 3 days and 2 nights, with critical condition notices piling up one after another. When the doctor asked Gu Yunche whether to save the mother or the baby, he hesitated for a long time, pushed his mother aside, chose to save me, and signed the consent form for the C-section. After giving birth to Gu Jingsha, I passed out completely. The doctor told me I was unconscious for 3 whole days and wouldn't have made it if I hadn't woken up. The birth left me in poor health, so Gu Jingsha remained my only child. I've always doted on him since he was little, giving him the best of everything. No matter how poor the family was, there was always meat in his bowl, and he never wore patched clothes. I suppose we spoiled him too much growing up, and in the end, we raised an ungrateful wretch who bit the hand that fed him. In my past life, it was he who personally pushed me out the door. Back then, I clung desperately to his hand, begging him to spare my life for the sake of having born and raised him, yet he still heartlessly shoved me out the door, repeating those same words, I can't have a useless, shabby mother like you, you're an embarrassment. This time, I'm going to become the capable and glamorous mother he envisions. In return, he'll have to endure some hardship. I bent down and gently touched his face, a pang of sorrow tightening in my chest. After all, He's the child I risked my life to bring into this world. No matter how much I resent him, I can't sever this bond between mother and son completely. Mommy isn't abandoning you, sweetheart. Mommy just has to go away for work. You'll stay here with Daddy, Grandpa, and Grandma. When Mommy comes back, I'll buy you lots of fun toys and yummy treats. Okay, don't listen to your mother's lies. Once she leaves, she's never coming back. Jingxia, hurry up and beg your mother not to go. Who's going to take care of all of us if she leaves? Look. Grandpa and Grandma are old, and your father is sick. If your mother leaves, you'll be a complete orphan with nobody to care for you. Didn't you see how the kids without mothers at your school got bullied? That's exactly what you'll become. Watching my mother-in-law's spiteful, divisive expression, I strode forward and slapped her across the face. Ever since the day I married Gu Yunche, she's been lording it over me and making my life miserable. I slaved away for her for half my life. And in the end, she still loathes and despises me, all because I'm an orphan with no family, unable to pave the way for Gu Yunche's meteoric rise. So no matter how well I did, she took it for granted, without a shred of gratitude. My mother-in-law stared at me in shock, then burst into wails the next second. Heaven has no eyes. A daughter-in-law is beating her mother-in-law. I looked at my mother-in-law with a cold sneer. For someone like me, you should have Gu Yunche divorce me. It's not that I'm clinging to your family and refusing to leave, it's that your son refuses to divorce me. My plans to study abroad are already settled. Even if you use Gu Jingxia, I won't stay. If you don't want to raise him, just send him to an orphanage. He's Gu Yunche's flesh and blood after all. If he's not ashamed, I certainly don't care. Seeing my mother-in-law stunned, I flung the payment notice from my pocket at her. I won't spend another cent on your family. You can pay your own bills from now on. My mother-in-law stared blankly at the bill on the floor, then burst into even louder sobs. Mutiny. This is mutiny. Xinyue-chan, if you dare leave, I'll find Yunche a new wife tomorrow. I let out a scornful laugh. Before you find him a new wife, make sure Gu Yunche divorces me first. Bigamy is a crime, you know. After the falling out with the Gu family, the hospital, fearing further complications, transferred me directly to a different department. Thanks to the hospital, I haven't seen anyone from the Gu family for days. On the day of my departure, I woke up early with the intention of visiting Professor Zhao one last time. She gave me a second chance at life, twice over. It's only right that I come to say goodbye. Standing outside Professor Zhao's office, before I could even knock, I heard Gu Yunche's agitated voice from within. Why did you give this opportunity to Xinyue-chan? Do you have any idea you've ruined our entire family because of it? Dr. Gu, that's not right. This is a rare opportunity. As her husband, you should be fully supportive. It's only 5 years. When Yue-chan comes back, she'll be a core member of the hospital staff. That's a good thing. Gu Yunche let out a cold snort. What good thing? All I want is a woman who can take care of the home. I don't need a capable woman. The more ordinary she is, the more she'll be devoted to taking care of our whole family. Xinyue-chan had already agreed to resign. If it weren't for you giving her this opportunity, our family wouldn't have had to go through all this trouble lately. Now that she's leaving, who's going to do all the housework? Who's going to take care of the elderly and the children? A bitter laugh escaped me, born of sheer fury. Before Professor Zhao could say another word, I shut the door open, stormed over to Gu Yunche, and slapped him across the face. Gu Yunche, you make me sick. Gu Yunche was stunned for a moment, then raised his hand to strike back. I turned my face to dodge the blow. As he tried to hit me again, Professor Zhao immediately called security to drag him out. Xinyue-chan, you're nothing but a shameless bitch. Watching Gu Yunche being hauled away by security, my hand trembled slightly. How could I have been so blind to fall for someone like him back then? Professor Zhao gently took my hand and said, don't worry about what others think. You must have the courage to be yourself. I nodded gratefully, my voice choked with emotion. Thank you, Professor Zhao. The moment the plane took off, I felt a sense of relaxation unlike anything I had ever experienced, gazing at the scenery below the window. I let out a deep sigh. From today onward, Xinyue-chan is starting a new life. 5 years later, wearing my favorite red coat, I returned to the hospital, surrounded by the director and the hospital's key staff. Gu Yunche never liked it when I wore brightly colored clothes. It wasn't until I went abroad that I realized vibrant colors are what truly make me shine. The hospital looks just the same as it did 5 years ago. Nothing's changed. Many of the doctors here are still familiar faces. When they saw me, they all greeted me warmly, saying, Dr. Shen, you're the one who's really changed. You look absolutely lovely. I always said you had the makings of a beauty, and Dr. Gu even used to say, What a way to ruin the mood, bringing up Gu Yunche on such a lovely day. Exactly, a real mood killer. I smiled at them. It's not ruining the mood, our divorce papers aren't even finalized yet. On the way to the Gu family home, I was feeling a bit conflicted. When the car stopped at the Gu family's gate, I thought I had pulled up to the wrong place. The once tidy entrance was now overgrown with weeds. At a glance, you'd think the place was abandoned. As I hesitated about getting out to knock, the door was pushed open from inside. Gu Jingzhe, now in his teens, emerged struggling with a full bucket of water. In the past, all these dirty, heavy chores had been my job. I can't believe they actually put Gu Jingzhe in charge after I left. He's just a kid. Furious, I shoved the car door open. Gu Jingzhe froze on the spot the moment he saw me. His lips trembled as he called out, "Mom." I lowered my gaze and walked over to him. "Where's Gu Yunche? Why would he make you do something like this?" Gu Jingzhe kept his eyes downcast as tears streamed uncontrollably down his face. "The year you left, Grandma passed away. The following winter, Grandpa was pushed out the door by Dad and froze to death. After Dad's hand was crippled, he started drinking heavily and neglected everything. He drank away all the money for my schooling. Last year, Dad had a stroke. He was paralyzed, couldn't get up anymore." Seeing Gu Jingzhe like that, a lump formed in my throat. I took his hand and led him toward the house. The moment I opened the door, a foul smell hit me so hard I nearly gagged. Gu Yunche, lying on the Kong, shifted his eyes. The instant he saw me, he frantically pulled the quilt over himself. Get out of here." I placed the prepared divorce papers by Gu Yunche's hand. "Sign it." Gu Yunche let out a bitter, mocking laugh before breaking into sobs. "Xinyue-chan, I've wronged you. I have no one to blame but myself for ending up like this. I'll sign the divorce papers. I have just one request. Please, take Jingzhe with you. I'm begging you." Looking at Gu Yunche, who bore no trace of his former handsome, dashing self, I lowered my gaze. "All right." Gu Yunche signed the divorce papers, and we were officially divorced. Although I decided to continue caring for Gu Jingzhe, to avoid the tragedy of my past life, I resolved to keep my distance. I would only be responsible for raising him, unwilling to invest any other emotions in him. So, I sent him to a boarding school, where he would come home once a month. 3 years later, I got my wish and became the hospital director. Over the past 3 years, I performed thousands of surgeries with 0 errors. Was named the city's most outstanding doctor, and my office is filled with commendation plaques. Story 2. I've been married to my childhood sweetheart for 3 years, and we're considered the perfect couple in our social circle. I came home early, only to find my husband and my best friend locked in a passionate embrace on our wedding bed. In my past life, after I broke down in tears, my husband told me I was disgusting. This time, I calmly closed the door and walked away. Then, he pulled out his phone, opened a live stream with millions of followers, and pointed the camera at the tightly shut door. "Hey everyone, today's show is called Catching a Cheater in the Act." 1. The barrage of comments on the phone screen instantly exploded. "Wait, the streamer isn't appraising antiques today, he's catching a cheater instead. Holy crap, what kind of new live stream content is this? I'm into it. Stop shaking the camera. Keep it steady. Can you hear anything from behind the door?" "I can't hear a thing." I pressed my phone's microphone against the door crack. Ambiguous gasps and lewd flirtatious whispers, carried by the electric current, spread clearly across the entire network. The viewer count in the live stream room skyrocketed from 10 million to 15 million, then 20 million in an instant. The numbers continued to climb frantically. I heard it. "Oh my god. That's my idol Gu Huayan's voice. Who is that woman? Isn't Mr. Gu famous for being a devoted husband? His wife, Shen Qianyu, is the top socialite in our city. Whoa, that's a lot to unpack." Sharing this immediately. "Guys, get over here and watch the drama unfold." I watched the barrage of comments fly across the screen, a cold smirk curling at the corner of my lips. In my past life, I had burst through the door like a madwoman, screaming hysterically at the cheating couple in the bed. In return, I received a slap of disgust from Gu Huayan, while Suwon hid in his arms, weeping with a pitiful, tear-streaked face. They conspired to have me committed to a mental institution, stripped me of everything from the Shin family, and ultimately left me to die of illness in that cold, confining cage. Given a second chance at life, I won't make the same foolish mistakes again. I will make them lose everything, their reputations ruined and their fortunes stripped bare. I adjusted the camera angle to capture the best shot, then flung the door open. A loud bang echoed. Everything inside was laid bare before the eyes of over 20 million viewers. On the marital bed, Two naked bodies were entangled, the man is my husband of 3 years, Gu Huayan, the woman is my best friend of 10 years, Su Wan. Hearing the noise, they turned around in alarm. When he saw it was me, a flicker of panic crossed Gu Huayan's face, but he quickly composed himself, even with a hint of impatience. Shen Qianyu, what's gotten into you now? He unhurriedly pulled the blanket over himself and Su Wan, his tone dripping with reproach, as if I were the unreasonable intruder causing a scene. Su Wan, on the verge of tears, shrank into his embrace, her exposed shoulder dotted with suggestive red marks. Qianyu. Don't get the wrong idea, Huayan and we just had too much to drink, the exact same opening line as in my last life. I didn't say a word, just slowly turned my phone camera to point at their faces. Gu Huayan finally noticed the phone in my hand, and the skyrocketing viewer count on the screen, his face drained of color, turning ashen, then darkened with rage. Shen Qianyu, what are you doing? Turn it off now, he roared, throwing off the covers as he lunged to snatch my phone. I took a step back, deftly evading him. The camera perfectly captured his stark naked, disheveled state and Su Wan's terrified scream. The barrage of comments went absolutely wild. Ah, my eyes, Gu Huayan actually cheated, that woman is Su Wan, oh my god, guard against thieves, fire, and your best friend, run, Qianyu, he's about to hit someone, record it, get all of this on camera, this is the evidence, too. Gu Huayan lunged and missed, glaring at me with furious humiliation. The malice in his eyes was almost enough to swallow me whole. Have you lost your mind? Do you have any idea what the consequences of this will be? Of course I know. I looked at him calmly, enunciating every word. The consequence is that you, Gu Huai, a city's most promising young entrepreneur, will be exposed for cheating on your wife with her best friend. Your reputation will be utterly destroyed. And as for her, Su Wan, the brilliant designer, she knew he was married and still chose to be the other woman, she'll be universally condemned. Su Wan's face turned deathly pale, she clutched the blanket, her body trembling uncontrollably. Qianyu, you can't do this to me, we're supposed to be best friends. Best friends, I laughed, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. Would a best friend climb into my husband's bed? Would she sleep in our marital home? In the live stream, the netizens were boiling with righteous indignation. Trashy couple, you two deserve each other. My heart aches for Shen Qianyu, sending you a hug, beautiful, don't be scared, streamer, we're all here for you. The police have been called. The words police have been called made Gu Huayan's pupils contract sharply. He couldn't afford to have a criminal record, and the Gu family's reputation couldn't withstand the scandal. His tone softened. An attempt to placate me, Qianyu. We were husband and wife once, let's not make this so ugly. Turn off the live stream first, and we can talk this through properly. Whatever compensation you want, I'll give it to you. Compensation, I let out a bitter laugh, as if I'd heard the most absurd joke in the world. Gu Huayan, do you really think I need money? What I need is the life you all drove me to end in my past existence. What I want, you can't afford. No sooner had the words been spoken than a frantic knocking came from the door. Police, listen up in there, we have a report of suspected illegal live streaming activity. Open the door immediately for inspection. The color drained completely from Gu Huayan and Su Wan's faces, leaving them ashen. 3. The arrival of the police was the climax of the whole farce. The flashing police lights cast the pale faces of Gu Huayan and Su Wan in a flickering, ghostly light. They scrambled frantically for their clothes. Their utter disarray met with a chorus of whistles and jeers from the live stream. I ended the live stream at just the right moment. In the final second before the screen went completely black, I said, thank you all for watching. That's all for today's show. I'll post the follow-up content on my personal account. My personal account, of course I don't have one, but I knew that after tonight. An account named Shen Qianyu would exist across the entire internet, amassing followers in the tens of millions, and that account would become the sword of Damocles hanging over the heads of Gu Huayan and Su Wan. After the police entered, they went through the motions and asked about the situation. I gave a concise account of what happened and submitted the live stream recording as evidence to the police. Gu Huayan tried to explain, saying it was just a misunderstanding between husband and wife. But faced with this misunderstanding in front of an audience of over 20 million, his explanation seemed feeble and unconvincing. In the end, they were taken to the police station for disseminating obscene information on a public online platform. I followed behind to give my statement. Before leaving, Gu Huayan turned back and shot me a look laced with pure venom. Shen Qianyu, you'll live to regret this. I answered with nothing but a smile. Regret. My greatest regret is not seeing your true colors sooner in my past life. When I stepped out of the police station, the sky was just beginning to lighten. I hailed a cab and gave the driver the address of a hotel. I didn't go home. I couldn't stand another second in that house, tainted with betrayal and filth. I had just arrived at the hotel when my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law, Lu Qin, Gu Huayan's mother. The moment the call connected, she launched into a furious tirade. Shen Qianyu, you vicious woman, our Gu family must have been cursed for 8 lifetimes to have a troublemaker like you marry in. If anything happens to Huayan, I'll skin you alive. You want to skin me alive. I let out a soft, derisive laugh, my tone dripping with nonchalance. Ms. Lu, we live in a society governed by law. Making threats carries legal consequences. On the other end of the line, Lu Qin was momentarily speechless, then let out a shriek at an even higher pitch. How dare you lecture me about the law? You brought utter disgrace upon the Gu family. I order you to issue a statement immediately, confessing that you were mentally unstable and engaged in malicious slander. Otherwise, I'll make sure you can't show your face in City A ever again. Oh, I drawled, my voice dripping with sarcasm. I'm so scared. However, whether I'm mentally unsound or not isn't for you to decide. That requires an evaluation by a professional institution. As for malicious slander, I happen to have a full hour of high-definition and censored footage. Care to take a look? My son, Gu Huayan, in bed. Shut your mouth. Lu Qin cut me off in a furious rage, her breathing ragged and labored like a broken bellows. I knew that the Gu family's reputation was what she cared about most, and I was determined to personally tear that precious reputation down and trample it underfoot. Shen Qianyu, just what is it you want? A trace of weariness and resignation, almost imperceptible, crept into Lu Qin's voice. It's simple, I said, leaning back into the plush hotel sofa as I watched the dawn light outside the window. Divorce, and I want Gu Huayan to leave with nothing. In your dreams, Lu Qin shrieked. You won't get a single cent of the Gu family's money. Is that so? I said slowly. Then we'll see each other in court, when that time comes. I'm afraid that video will be submitted as evidence and played publicly for everyone to see. Oh. And I'll be sure to invite all the top media friends in City A to attend the hearing. I'd even thought of the perfect headline, High Society Scandal, the courtroom romance between the Gu family CEO and his socialite bestie. A long, dead silence hung on the other end of the line. I could just picture Lu Qin's meticulously maintained face, now twisted into a mask of pure fury. It was a long moment before she finally managed to hiss a few words through clenched teeth. Where are you? Had a change of heart, I chuckled. If you have your lawyer get in touch. Oh, wait, with my lawyer. I hung up and tossed the phone aside. I knew it, this battle was only just beginning. Lu Qin won't let this go. Gu Huayan and Suwan won't just sit back and take it either. Sure enough, in less than half an hour, the tide of public opinion online began to shift. 5. A lengthy post titled A Heart-Wrenching Plea from an Ordinary Girl. A Decade of Friendship? Ultimately Betrayed is rapidly gaining traction across major platforms. The author is Suwan. In the article, she portrays herself as a pitiful figure, debased by love. She claims that she and Gu Huayan were truly in love, but were forced to part in agony due to the interference of me, the vicious lawful wife. She said I'm usually domineering and overbearing, treating Gu Huayan as my personal property, subjecting him to nothing but scolding and abuse. She claimed I had long been aware of the feelings between her and Gu Huayan, but kept it bottled up until today, when I laid this vicious trap with the sole purpose of destroying them. I love him, and I'm willing to bear all the infamy for his sake. But Qianyu, you've won, you've destroyed us, yet you will never win his heart. At the end of the article, she attached a selfie of herself with red-rimmed eyes, looking utterly pitiful and heart-wrenching. You have to admit, Suwan really knows how to play people. This whitewashing article, which glosses over the key issues and distorts the truth, successfully garnered her some sympathy. Public opinion began to polarize. So that's how it is. I knew there was no way Mr. Gu would cheat. It turns out the wife was the problem. After being friends for 10 years, she steals her bestie's husband and still has the nerve to call it true love. The audacity of this homewrecker, Shen Qianyu, is downright vicious. Who would resort to revenge like this? All you self-righteous saints in the comments, get lost. Team the wife all the way. Tear that cheating scum and that homewrecking *tch apart. My phone started buzzing like crazy again, flooded with calls and texts from countless unknown numbers. I opened it to find nothing but insults and curses. You bitch, why don't you just die? Leave Mr. Gu and Wanwan alone, you venomous witch. It seems the Gu family's PR team has gotten involved. They hired trolls, leaked my phone number, and tried to use public opinion to force me into submission. Unfortunately for them, they miscalculated. I looked at those vile words, my eyes utterly calm and unflinching. I turned on my computer and logged into an encrypted email account. Inside, quietly lay an email I had prepared long ago. The recipient was Zhuo Feng, the most famous, and least ethical, paparazzo in City A. The email's contents were simple, just one audio file and a single sentence, a headline, just for you. Don't mention it, click, send. After finishing all that, I shut down the computer, drew the curtains, and drifted off into a peaceful sleep. You need to be well rested to enjoy a good show. 6. I slept like the dead. When I finally woke up, the city lights were just beginning to glow outside my window. I checked my phone to find dozens of missed calls and hundreds of unread messages. They were from Lu Qin, Gu Huaiyan, and my parents. I called my parents back first to let them know I was safe and not to worry. While they were shocked by my decision to divorce, their feelings were more of heartache and support. Qianyu, don't be afraid, Mom and Dad will always have your back. After hanging up, I opened Weibo. 8 out of the top 10 trending topics are about us. Hashtag Gu Huaiyan Suwan recording hashtag. Hashtag Suwan's public persona crumbles hashtag. Hashtag scheming Suwan hashtag. Hashtag Shinqianyu fights back hashtag. Each trending topic was marked with a deep red explosive tag. Clicking on the first one revealed the audio clip posted by Zhuo Feng. The audio is a conversation between Su Wan and another friend of hers, Wan Wan. Are you really going to do this? That's Shinqianyu we're talking about. She's always been so good to you. Good, Su Wan sneered, her voice dripping with jealousy and contempt. She's just lucky, born into the Shin family. What right does she have to have everything? Gu Huaiyan. And the Gu family fortune, they should all be mine, but... Enough with the buts. That fool Gu Huaiyan is already completely infatuated with me. Once I get my hands on the Gu group shares and carry his child, Shinqianyu will have no choice but to get lost. What about Lu Qin, that old hag? She can't wait for me to marry into the family. She's had it out for Shinqianyu for ages, resenting her superior family background for overshadowing the Gu family. The audio clip was short, but it was absolutely packed with revelations. It was like a sharp knife, utterly shredding the mask of self-abasement for love that Su Wan had so meticulously crafted, and in the process, it dragged Lu Qin down into the mud as well. The comment section was completely overrun. Holy crap, what a plot twist. So Su Wan was the scheming bitch all along. Ugh, how revolting. She's accepting her friend's care while scheming to steal her husband and family fortune. The mother-in-law is truly something else, actually helping the other woman go after her own daughter-in-law. Shinqianyu did brilliantly. You can't afford to be soft on people like that. The comment section under Su Wan's whitewashing post was flooded with a torrent of abuse. Those who had once sympathized with her turned against her, now hurling the harshest insults. 7. My phone rang again. This time from an unknown number. I answered it. MS, Shen. This is Fu Yunshen. The voice on the other end of the line was low, pleasant, and carried a convincing steadiness. Fu Yunshen, the most renowned divorce lawyer in City A, with a perfect record over a decade of practice. In my past life, I wanted to hire him, but Lu Qin got there first. She used an exorbitant contract to exclusively secure Fu Yunshen, making him Gu Huaiyan's attorney. In the end, I was utterly defeated, in this life. I won't give her that chance again, Mr. Fu. Hello, I assume you already know why I'm here. Naturally, Fu Yunshen gave a light chuckle. The Gu family called just half an hour ago. I declined, however. Why? I was somewhat taken aback. With Lu Qin's methods, the price she named was one Fu Yunshen simply couldn't refuse. Because, Fu Yunshen paused, a hint of amusement coloring his tone. I'm far more interested in your livestream, Miss Shen. You are a most intriguing person. I raised an eyebrow. You're too kind, Attorney Fu. In that case, may we discuss my case? Of course, my office. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Does that work for you? Yes, it does. After hanging up, I gazed at the nightscape outside my window, feeling a sense of calm I had never known before. Fu Yunshen is the most crucial piece in my game of revenge. With him on my side, my chances of success increased by 90%. The next day, I arrived punctually at Fu Yunshen's law firm. He was younger than I had imagined, dressed in a well-tailored black suit. His eyes behind gold-rimmed glasses were deep and piercing. It was as if he could see right through people. Miss Shen, please have a seat. He personally poured a glass of water for me and then sat down opposite me. I understand your demands, a divorce, and for Gu Huaiyan to leave with nothing. Yes, I nodded. The marital assets consist largely of investments from my Shin family and the conversion of my personal premarital property. As for Gu Huayan's company, the seed capital was provided by my father. I have evidence for all of this. In my past life, that evidence was all destroyed by Lu Qin using despicable means, but in this life, I had long since moved it to the safest place possible. Fu Yunshan nodded, his slender fingers tapping lightly on the desk. The evidence is solid. But the Gu family has deep roots in City A. They'll pull every string to delay and pressure us. I understand. In that case, we need to turn up the heat. Fu Yunshan adjusted his glasses, a sharp glint flashing in his eyes behind the lenses, a fire that could burn them to ashes. 8. The fire Fu Yunshan spoke of was a document, a detailed dossier of evidence regarding Gu Huayan's company's recent tax evasion, falsified accounts, and illegal bidding practices. How on earth did you get these? I stared at him in shock. In my past life, I spent ages investigating this stuff and only ever scratched the surface, yet, Fu Yunshan managed to obtain such a complete chain of evidence in such a short time. Trade secret, he said with a wink, a hint of mischief in his smile. All you need to know is, with this, Gu Huayan won't just be leaving with nothing, he'll be trading his suit for a prison jumpsuit for a good few years. As I looked at him, a sudden warmth welled up inside me. Mr. Fu. Thank you, you're welcome. He slid the documents across the table to me. It's my job, and, he paused, looked me in the eye, and said earnestly, I also despise people who break up families. The sincerity in his eyes left me momentarily dazed. We reached an agreement. I handed over all the evidence in my possession to Fu Yunshan. In return, he promised to resolve everything for me in the shortest time possible. Stepping out of the law firm, the sunlight was just right. I squinted my eyes and took a deep breath. The very air seemed to carry the scent of freedom. Now, all that was left was to wait, waiting for the Gu family to make their final, desperate struggle. That very afternoon, the stock price of the Gu Group began to plummet. Overnight, nearly 10 billion in market value evaporated. Online, the scandal involving Gu Huayan and Su Wan continued to brew. The Gu family's PR team was at their wits' end, utterly powerless to turn the tide. Lu Qin called me again. Gone was the arrogance from her voice, replaced only by endless exhaustion and venom. Shin Qianyu, what will it take for you to stop? Must you destroy Huayan and ruin the Gu family? Your son is the one who destroyed himself and brought down the Gu family. I replied coldly, I'm begging you, just let him go. If you'll drop the lawsuit and issue a statement, I can give you 100 million, no, 500 million, 500 million. She's really willing to go that far. What a pity. The one thing I, Shin Qianyu, am not short of, is money. Mrs. Lu, let me make myself perfectly clear one more time. All I want is a divorce, and for him to walk away with nothing. Oh, and one more thing. I cut her off. I forgot to mention, I've already filed a real name report with the Tax Bureau and the Securities Regulatory Commission regarding the Gu Group's illegal activities. I imagine they'll be inviting Mr. Gu in for a chat very soon. From the other end of the line came a sharp shriek, followed by the sound of something heavy hitting the floor. I know I made Lu Qin faint from anger. Serves her right. All of this is the retribution they deserve. 9. Things are unfolding even more smoothly than I had anticipated. A joint task force from the Tax Bureau and the Securities Regulatory Commission swiftly moved into the Gu Group's headquarters. Confronted with the irrefutable evidence provided by Fu Yunshan, Gu Huayan had no defense. Tax evasion, accounting fraud, embezzlement of public funds, any single one of these charges would be enough to seal his fate. The Gu Group was shut down, and all its assets were frozen. As the legal representative, Gu Huayan was taken into criminal custody. Overnight, City A's most promising young entrepreneur was reduced to a common prisoner. The news exploded like a bombshell, once again sending shockwaves through City A. Yet I, standing at the very eye of the storm, remained eerily calm. I moved back to the Shin residence. My parents didn't ask many questions. They simply and quietly prepared everything for me. My father patted my shoulder and said, well done, Qianyu. A daughter of the Shin family must never allow herself to be bullied. With tears in her eyes, my mother hugged me tightly, repeating, you're home, that's all that matters, you're home. The warmth of home finally allowed my nerves, which had been stretched taut for days, to finally relax. A few days later, I received a phone call from Su Wan. Her voice was hoarse, filled with despair. Shin Qianyu, you've won. Are you happy now? I didn't win, I said flatly. I just took back what was rightfully mine all along. You ruined him. You ruined me too, she shrieked hysterically. I was fired from the company. Everyone's calling me a bitch. I'm too scared to even leave my house now. This is all your fault. You chose this path yourself. I'll never let you go. I'll haunt you from beyond the grave." The call was disconnected. I listened to the monotonous dial tone, feeling nothing. Suwon isn't even worth my hatred. She's just a pathetic, insignificant clown on my path of vengeance. The real prize is still to come. 10. My divorce proceedings against Gu Huaiyan have commenced in court. Given the involvement of a public figure and allegations of commercial crime, the trial has drawn intense public scrutiny. I sat in the plaintiff's seat, my expression composed and detached. Across the courtroom in the defendant's dock, Gu Huaiyan, clad in prison garb and handcuffed, looked gaunt and haggard, a stark contrast to his former confident and spirited self. His eyes were fixed on me. Burning with resentment and bitter frustration, Lu Qin sat in the front row of the public gallery. In just a few days, she seemed to have aged a decade, her hair now mostly gray. The court proceedings were a foregone conclusion. The evidence prepared by Fu Yunshan was ironclad: marital infidelity, asset concealment, corporate fraud. Gu Huaiyan's crimes were laid out, one by one. The lawyer he hired was completely outmatched by Fu Yunshan, losing ground at every turn. Finally, the judge delivered the verdict in open court: grant the divorce between me and Gu Huaiyan, regarding the marital assets. Due to Gu Huaiyan's gross misconduct, I am to receive 90%. The original shares of the Gu Group shall belong to me. As for Gu Huaiyan, he will face a prison sentence of over 10 years. The moment the gavel fell, Lu Qin let out a piercing shriek and fainted on the spot. Gu Huaiyan, as if all strength had been drained from him, slumped into his chair. He looked at me, his lips trembling as if he wanted to say something. But I didn't give him the chance. I stood up and, with Fu Yunshan by my side, walked out of the courtroom without a backward glance. Outside, the sun was shining brightly. A swarm of reporters surged forward, surrounding me and Fu Yunshan completely. "Miss Shen, are you satisfied with the verdict?" "Ms. Shen, what are your plans moving forward? Will you be taking over the Gu Group?" "Attorney Fu, with this resounding victory in court, do you have any comments?" The camera flashes kept going off, their light washing my face pale. I stopped, turned to face the lens, and offered a composed smile. "Justice may be delayed, but it will never be denied. As for the Gu Group," I paused, my voice clear and resolute, "it will soon bear the surname Shen." 11. My words made the front page of every major financial newspaper the very next day. Shen Qianyu, the new queen of A City's business world. The Gu era ends, the Shen dynasty rises. Everyone thought it would take me ages to clean up that mess. They were all wrong. With Fu Yunshan's support, I swiftly and decisively implemented sweeping reforms across the company. I purged all of the Gu family's old guard and replaced them with my own trusted confidants. We divested the non-performing assets and reorganized the business lines, leveraging the Shen family's connections and resources. I quickly infused the company with new vitality. In just 1 month, the company's stock price miraculously stopped falling and rebounded, even surpassing its pre-crisis level. With my capabilities, I've proven to everyone that I, Shen Qianyu, am not some delicate vine that can only cling to a man. I can also be a queen who stands on her own. That day, as I was handling documents in my office, my secretary knocked and entered. "Mr. Shen, there's a lady here to see you. She says her name is Suwon." I looked up, somewhat taken aback. I never thought she'd have the nerve to show her face to me again. "Show her in." A few minutes later, Suwon walked in. She had lost a lot of weight. Her complexion was sallow, and she wore a faded old coat. Gone was her former radiance. She looked at me, her eyes a complex mix of emotions: envy, resentment, and a hint of entreaty. "Qianyu," she began, her voice parched, "we're not on such familiar terms for you to address me like that," I said, leaning back in my chair and looking at her coolly. Her face paled, and she clenched the hem of her clothes. "Mr. Shen, I'm here to beg a favor." "Beg a favor?" I sounded as if I'd heard a joke. "What gives you the right to ask me for anything?" I know I was wrong," she said, lowering her head, her voice trembling with tears. "I shouldn't have been so foolish. I shouldn't have betrayed you. Please, for the sake of our 10 years of friendship, give me a way out. I can't find a job now. I can't even pay the rent. If this goes on, I'll really starve to death." She wept pitifully, her face streaked with tears. In another life, I might have softened, but now, I just feel sick. "Suwon." I stood up, walked over to her, and looked down at her from above. "You starving to death is none of my business. When you schemed against me back then, why didn't you think to leave me a way out? When you and Gu Huaiyan were rolling around on my wedding bed, why didn't you spare a thought for our 10 years of friendship? Every word I said was like a knife, plunging deep into her heart. Her face grew paler and paler, her body swaying unsteadily. Get out, I cut her off coldly. Don't let me see you again, or I can't promise what I'll do. My gaze was as cold as a poisoned blade. Suwon took a frightened step back, staggered around, and fled the room as if for her life. Watching her retreating, panic-stricken figure, I felt no satisfaction. I felt only pity, for a man who wasn't worth it, for those fleeting, illusory desires. She ruined her own life, and she almost ruined mine, too. 12. With that little episode involving Suwon resolved, my life finally got back on track. The company is thriving under my leadership. Fu Yunshin transitioned from being my legal counsel to becoming my friend. We occasionally get together for meals and conversation. He is a very knowledgeable and interesting person. Being with him, I felt a sense of ease and comfort I'd never known before. That day, we met up for a meal at a newly opened Western restaurant. He suddenly asked me, "So, what are your plans for the future?" Plans, I thought for a moment, cutting into my steak. To grow the company successfully and ensure my parents can enjoy a peaceful retirement. What about you? He looked at me intently. Haven't you ever thought about starting a new relationship? My hand paused. A relationship. After Gu Huayan's betrayal, I'd become rather wary of that word. I haven't really thought about it, I said with a light laugh. Once bitten, twice shy. That snake has been locked away in a cage. Fu Yunshin's voice was soft. And not every rope in a well is going to bite you. His gaze was intense and sincere, making it difficult for me to meet his eyes. I lowered my head and changed the subject. You know, I've always wondered. Why did you help me back then? The Gu family must have offered you a much better deal than I could. Fu Yunshin fell silent for a moment. Because, my mother went through something similar to what you did. A trace of sorrow, almost imperceptible, colored his voice. My father and his mistress drove her to madness together, and in the end, she jumped from a building. I was stunned, never having imagined he carried such a heavy past. I'm sorry, I had no idea. It's okay. It's all in the past now. He gave me a smile, but it was a strained one. From that moment on, I swore I would become the best lawyer, to seek justice for every woman who has been wronged. So, when I saw your live stream, I knew I had to help you. So that's how it is. As I looked at him, a torrent of emotions welled up inside me. We are both people who have been wounded by betrayal. Perhaps that is precisely why we connect so deeply. The meal concluded in a somewhat somber atmosphere. On the way back, Fu Yunshin suddenly spoke. "Qianyu," he called me by my name, not Miss Shen. "Give me a chance, and give yourself one too." Okay, I looked at him, and in the depths of his eyes, I saw my own reflection. My heart skipped a beat, completely beyond my control. 13. I didn't answer Fu Yunshin right away. I needed time to sort through my feelings. When I got home, I received an unexpected phone call. It was a call from the prison. "Gu Huayan wants to see me." I hesitated for a moment, but agreed in the end. Some things just need to be settled, once and for all. In the visitation room, separated by a thick pane of glass, I saw Gu Huayan again. He looked even more haggard than he had in the courtroom last time, dressed in the blue and white prison uniform. His hair was shaved to a buzz cut, his eyes sunken and his gaze dull. When he saw me, he grew visibly agitated, the hand gripping the phone tensing with bulging veins. "Shen Qianyu, you venomous witch." The first words out of his mouth were, once again, curses. I watched him calmly, saying nothing. He ranted for a while, but seeing I didn't react, he found it pointless and stopped. "What did you do to my mother?" he demanded, his voice ragged with exertion. What could I possibly have done? I shot back. I merely returned the favor. I gave her a taste of her own medicine for what she did to the Shen family. After taking over the company, my first order of business was to conduct a thorough audit of the Shen family's historical investment accounts with the Gu Corporation. That's when I discovered it. Lu Qin had abused her position to secretly siphon off a substantial portion of the Shen family's assets, lining her own pockets in the process. I handed the evidence over to the police. Now, she's in here too, in the women's prison, right next to Gu Huayan's. In a twisted way, the mother and son are finally reunited. Gu Huayan's eyes instantly reddened. He shot to his feet, lunging forward only to be stopped by the glass. "Shen Qianyu, I'll kill you." He began pounding frantically against the glass, the impacts booming loudly. Guards immediately rushed over, restrained him, and dragged him away. From start to finish, my expression never changed a bit. Watching his pathetic figure being dragged away, I suddenly found it all rather laughable. This is the man I loved for over a decade. The man I even died for once. Now I see he's nothing but a spoiled, spineless coward, stepping out of the prison. The sunlight was blinding. I saw Fu Yunshen's car parked not far away. He was leaning against the car door. Seeing me, he gave a slight smile. All done talking. How are you feeling? Better than ever. I looked at him and smiled. Fu Yunshen, does what you said last time still stand? He was taken aback for a moment. Then it dawned on him. The delight in his eyes was almost overflowing. Of course. He strode quickly over to me and took my hand. His palm was warm and dry, radiating strength. Thank you, Qianyu. No, thank you. We shared a smile. The sun overhead was warm and bright. I knew then that my life had finally turned a new page. All the darkness and pain are now in the past. The road ahead is smooth and clear. 14. Since I've been with Fu Yunshen, life has been like perfectly sweetened honey. He is an impeccable partner, gentle, considerate, and respectful of all my decisions. He remembers my period and prepares brown sugar tea and a heating pad for me in advance. When I'm exhausted from work, he quietly massages my shoulders. He sits through boring soap operas with me and chuckles in agreement when I criticize the plot. Every day with him is filled with small, warm moments of happiness. It was then I realized that love could truly be like this. It's not about possession or control, but mutual support and a meeting of souls. My career is also flourishing more and more. Under my leadership, the Shin Group has firmly established itself as the undisputed leader in City A's business world. I have become an icon and a role model for countless women. Occasionally, I still hear bits of news about Gu Huaiyan and Su Wan. I heard that Gu Huaiyan's behavior in prison has been poor, with repeated violations leading to an extension of his sentence. Lu Qin, who was advanced in years and in poor health, fell gravely ill in prison and passed away not long after. As for Su Wan, her fate was the most tragic of all. That day, I was reviewing a financial report when Fu Yunshen suddenly pushed the door open and entered, his expression grim. Qianyu, take a look at this. He handed me his phone. On the screen was a news report. #woman found under overpass, pronounced dead at scene. In the accompanying photo, the woman curled up in the filthy corner was barely recognizable, but the outline was unmistakably Su Wan's. Reports say she died of a drug overdose. After I threw her out, with nowhere to turn, she fell into drug addiction and ultimately died destitute on the streets. I looked at that photo, and felt nothing inside. Pity often masks a multitude of sins. She has no one to blame but herself for the mess she's in today. I turned off my phone, looked up, and smiled at Fu Yunshen. It's all in the past now. Yeah, it's over. He walked over and wrapped his arms around me from behind. From now on, you've got me. I leaned into his warm embrace, feeling his steady heartbeat, and a deep sense of peace settled within me. Yes, it's all in the past now. Those who hurt me have paid the price, and I have found my own happiness. In this second life, I have not squandered the gift I was given. I have become the person I always wanted to be, proud, independent, and radiant. Outside the window, the night was gentle. I turned my head and kissed Fu Yunshen on the lips. We have a long life ahead of us, and there will be plenty of time for us. The end. That's all for the first story. Don't go away. The next one is even more exciting. In an era of material scarcity, Tan Chu traded his family's last 60 jin of grain ration coupons for 2 movie tickets, all just to fulfill his sister-in-law's dream of seeing a movie, after she had just lost her husband. But my baby was crying its eyes out from hunger. I cursed that woman, calling her shameless, yet he shielded her and snapped at me, saying, "You only lost your ration coupons." But she lost her entire family. All she wanted was a taste of happiness. Couldn't you just be a little more understanding? I went home and made a huge scene, but the whole family took my widowed sister-in-law's side. It was only later that I discovered this woman was Tan Chu's long-lost ex-wife, and the stepson I was raising for him was actually her child. I turned and walked away, determined to take my fate into my own hands. Then came the famine. I watched from the car as he fought with his beloved sister-in-law over a scrap of food. The rice jar was empty, the baby wailed with hunger, and my 7-year-old stepson was frantic, jumping around from the pain of an empty stomach. My in-laws complained that I hadn't taken proper care of the ration coupons. I searched the entire house but couldn't find the food ration coupons I'd been saving for half a year. Panic set in, and I rushed to my husband's factory with our 6-month-old baby strapped to my back. There I saw him, laughing and chatting as he walked out of the cinema with a woman he called his sister-in-law. I looked down and saw the torn half of a movie ticket stub he was trying to hide. Everyone knows how scarce movie tickets are. They're worth their weight in gold. On top of that, this is the first cinema to open in our county, making it even more of a challenge. He must have gone to great lengths to get those tickets, right? Last night, the neighbor's son threw a tantrum all night, pushing his usually doting parents to the brink until they finally snapped. Is watching a movie really worth? That's the equivalent of a family going hungry for 3 months, a whole 60 gene worth of grain ration coupons. What family could bear to spend that? Our neighbors were a family of 3 with 2 working adults, while we were a family of 7 with only 1 breadwinner, yet my husband insisted on going without a second thought. I remember when I first heard the word movie, I was filled with longing. I couldn't fathom how people could sing, act, and fight inside a square of cloth. What on earth could that be like? Back then, Tan-Chuan tapped my nose and promised me, when we finally get a cinema here, I'll be the first to take you to see a movie. As long as you're happy, it's all worth it. But now, he doesn't dare even mention a single word about movies to me. For another woman, he's willing to spend 3 months' worth of the family's ration coupons, just to win her favor. As I approached, Liang Yuan's gaze faltered, clearly having noticed Tan-Chu's gesture as well. She opened her mouth to say something, but upon seeing the baby in my arms, she shrank back. Tan-Chu stepped forward, shielding her behind him. He reassured her, "It's all right, I'm here. You're the elder sister-in-law, she's the younger. It's only proper for the younger to respect the elder. She won't mind." Liang Yuan gave him a light punch on the chest and chided, "This is all because you insisted on switching to movie tickets. A man with a wife and child, and you're still like this. Don't be so impulsive. See, your sister-in-law has come looking for you now. All right, you've seen it. Can you honestly say you're not happy? As long as you're happy, sister-in-law, it was all worth it. That's just my duty as your younger brother. But we didn't bring your wife along. When it comes down to it, it's all my fault. She doesn't have the time. She's busy with the baby and taking care of the house. Don't blame yourself. It's just a movie. I can still treat you. You're my sister-in-law, and I'd be honored to have you join me." They were completely absorbed in each other, the atmosphere between them familiar and intimate. Before I could speak, Tan-Chun said in a low voice, "We'll talk about this at home. You'll get your explanation." He glanced again at the baby in my arms, who was now crying pitifully from hunger, whimpering weakly. He gave me a long, hard look, his reproach unmistakable. He was blaming me for being manipulative, for using the child as leverage, but with so many people coming and going, he couldn't make a scene. "Aren't you going home? What kind of wife stands outside a movie theater making a spectacle of herself with a child in her arms?" With that, he took the lead and walked off with Liang Yuan, paying her no further mind. As the sun set, the two of them chatted and laughed, discussing the finer points of the film. They looked every bit the picture of a devoted couple. A month ago, Tan-Chu brought a woman home. He said his half-brother had died in an accident, leaving behind his newlywed wife all alone, a woman with no income, too afraid to return to her parents' home, so he took it upon himself to bring her back. At the time, he assured me, "Nuan, don't worry, once I find a chance to get her settled, we'll close our door and live our own, quiet life. For now, circumstances force our hand. It's just one more mouth to feed. Please, do this good deed and help her." "All right," he said. Liang Yuan was a pitiful soul, weak-willed and lacking any practical skills. Abandoned by her parents at a young age, she had no choice but to drift along with the current. She was passed around by traffickers, trying to marry her off to anyone. If it hadn't been for her older brother's protection, she might have starved to death. I tried to explain our family's current situation to him. We're not well off, and with a household of 7 already, adding another person would only make things even more difficult. His younger sister is getting married next year and needs a dowry. His parents currently have no income, and he has a 7-year-old son who's about to start school, while I'm still at home taking care of our baby. But he said, "Don't worry, I've got it covered. Everyone else has already agreed. They're just waiting for my decision." Looking at his earnest plea, I couldn't bear the thought of him being criticized by others, so I reluctantly agreed. That very day, he brought his widowed sister-in-law into the house. It turned out he had already had her waiting outside. He was so sure I wouldn't refuse, and even if I did, he'd have found a way to make me agree, so why bother with the pretense? Once she was inside, he went ahead and cleared out the largest sunroom for her. The newly built one he had promised would be mine after my postpartum confinement. "The new room you promised me," I blurted out without thinking. "Qin Chuan, isn't this the room you promised me?" He just went ahead and gave the room he promised me to someone else without even asking me. Does he even care about my feelings? What are you making a fuss about? She's your sister-in-law, and she just lost her husband. Are you really going to make a big deal out of a single room? My eyes welled up with hurt. How could he think of me that way? If only he had asked for my opinion. Of course I would have given it. Swallowing my bitterness, I swallowed my pride and made a detour to see my best friend Lin Xiang with the baby in my arms, not stopping until he finally got some rice, porridge. Only then did my heart settle down. Gazing at Lin Xiang's face, once coarse but now pampered and delicate, I glanced down at my own increasingly rough hands and voiced my decision. I want a divorce. Lin Xiang, holding the baby, froze, her face a mask of utter disbelief. Your Qin Chuan is so wonderful and treats you so well. How could you bear to leave him? Before Liang Yuan came along, he was truly good to me. We did have love between us. He remembered all my preferences, every little thing about me. He was willing to spend his entire life savings just to marry me. And for me, he got hurt, drank himself into a stupor to win my hand, and even quit smoking just because I once said I didn't like men who smoked. It's just that now. The young man who used to blush and get flustered at the mere sight of me has become someone who humiliates me in public for the sake of strangers. He lets my baby go hungry just to curry favor with another woman, and I find myself remembering less and less of the good things he ever did for me. He brought a woman home, claiming she was his widowed sister-in-law, and even traded 60 jin of grain ration coupons for movie tickets. I told Lin Xiang everything that happened today, expressionless, as if recounting events from someone else's life. Sample, Lin Xiang was about to stand up for me, but I stopped her. And after we drive her away, am I supposed to just go on living with him? What if, will there be another Liang Yuan? It's not that he changed, he just doesn't love me as much anymore. I told myself I wasn't sad, yet the scalding tears came crashing down. I thought I would be the exception, but it turns out the outcome was just the same, I said with conviction. I've thought it through. I don't want to stay with him. I want a divorce. As the saying goes, out of sight, out of mind. Since his heart is no longer with me, why should I cling on? I thought Lin Xiang would advise me to endure for the sake of the child, given how tough life can be. Yet, she said she would respect my decision completely and that I could turn to her whenever I needed, with her unwavering support as my anchor. I felt fearless from then on. When I got home, a pot of steaming hot rice was already cooked. They beckoned me to sit down and eat. Tan Chu watched me cautiously, then pressed something into my hand. It was the moisturizing cream I'd been wanting for so long. I'd mentioned it once before, and he said the supply and marketing cooperative was out of stock. Yet, the day after Liang Yuan arrived, he bought it for her. He set the table for me, laying out the bowls and chopsticks, and served me a heaping bowl of rice. Muan. There's plenty of food at home. If you're hungry, please eat your fill. He paused for a moment. Liang Yuan is new here, and she's just lost my brother. She has no one to rely on. As his younger brother, it's only right that I look after her a bit more. She's been feeling down, so I thought taking her out might help lift her spirits. I hope she can find her way out of the grief of losing her husband soon. Could you try to be a little more understanding? My mother-in-law chimed in. Nuan, let's just put the ration coupon business behind us. Xiaochuan will bring more home at the end of the month. Let it go. If your sister-in-law sees you with that long face, she'll just overthink it and get even more upset. I'm clearly not the one who did anything wrong, but in their eyes, I am. My mistake, apparently, is making a fuss about it. My sister-in-law gave me a cold look, expecting me to just put up with it. My father-in-law sat there with a grim face, silently smoking his pipe, completely ignoring the fact that my baby and I were present. I quickly carried the baby back to the inner room. Watching her sleep so soundly, I made a silent vow to myself. My darling, you'll stand by your mother's decision, won't you? I will absolutely not let my baby be upset or have to compete for affection with some unrelated person. After settling the baby, I walked up to them, looked around, and pointed at my father-in-law as I asked, Qin Chu, does your father not know that the baby and I are here and shouldn't be breathing secondhand smoke? Why has no one said anything to him? Is this what you call thinking of me? I'll never forget when Liang Yuan first arrived. She coughed once after smelling the smoke from my father-in-law's cigarette. He immediately put it out and voluntarily stepped outside. Yet, whether I was pregnant or in my postpartum confinement period, my father-in-law carried on as usual. Even though Tan Chu repeatedly and tactfully brought it up, he never changed his ways. My voice was colder than it had ever been. You all say we should take good care of Liang Yuan because she's new here. Well, what about me? Am I not new here too? When she first arrived, I gave her my best bedding, clothes, and daily necessities, whatever she needed, whenever she asked. Have I ever failed to get it for her? I'm still nursing the baby, yet I'm up at dawn and work till dusk for this family. Keeping the house in order, cooking, and doing the laundry. Has my sister-in-law ever lifted a finger to help? 60 pounds of grain ration coupons for 2 movie tickets. What kind of fortune do you think we have to squander like this? The baby is still going hungry. What do you expect me to do? Have you no thought for me? Don't you even think about the baby? The new year is almost here, and without those coupons, the whole family will starve. The fury in my chest was about to burst out. So, I had endured all that injustice for him. He knew all along. The one who promised to treat me well was all talk and no action. Yet, when it came to others, his drive and efficiency were terrifyingly strong. My father-in-law's face fell, and he kicked the dog at his feet in frustration. Quite the temper you've got. Tanchu's face was etched with guilt, while my mother-in-law's lips quivered. Just then, a noise came from the doorway. There stood Liang Yuan, appearing with my 7-year-old stepson, both laden with bags. I had no idea my presence was affecting your life so much. I'll just leave. Liang Yuan's tears fell, and everyone else panicked, gathering around to comfort her and helping to carry all her newly purchased items back into her room. I saw that among the things in her hands were candy, snacks, body wash, shampoo. Chin Chu's face instantly turned cold. Can you please stop making a scene? Everyone who comes here is a guest. If you keep this up, the neighbors will see, and we'll become the talk of the town when we go out. As for Dad smoking, I'll talk to him about being more mindful. Mom will handle the simple chores like laundry and cooking. You just focus on taking care of the baby at home. Regarding the food ration coupons, I'll figure something out. We won't starve, at the very least. As for Liang Yuan, she's about to start her job soon. She'll be home even less from now on. Given the tough times we're in, you'll have to bear with it. Just bear with it. Going to work, I immediately thought of the job the supply and marketing cooperative manager had promised me before my vacation, and tentatively asked, in a few days, I'll be starting work too. I had an arrangement with the cooperative manager. He cut me off. It's all settled with the supply and marketing cooperative. Liang Yuan will take your place. He said it so matter-of-factly. That job at the cooperative was something countless people would kill for, and now he just casually expects me to hand it over as a favor. How can he be so shameless? My blood boiled. For the first time, I found him utterly repulsive and hypocritical. That's my job. What gives you the right to decide for me? He offered an explanation. You should just stay home and take good care of little Bao and Chinka. My parents are getting old and can't be relied on, so you need to be more attentive at home. Besides, I can certainly support our family. You don't need to work yourself to the bone. Taking care of your health is the most important thing. Liang Yuan is new in town and can't find a job for now. It's best if she takes over your position. He didn't give me a chance to ask more questions and turned to go into Liang Yuan's room. He doesn't consult me on any decisions now, nor does he care about my feelings anymore. My 7-year-old stepson, caught off guard by the scene, gave me a sudden shove. I don't like you anymore. I was left alone, sprawled on the ground in the courtyard, as their voices drifted over one by one, each chiming in to comfort. They were all comforting their newly arrived sister-in-law, daughter-in-law, and aunt. I was the only outsider. When I first arrived, my stepson was dressed in rags, his face covered in snot and drool, scrawny and small. It was I who meticulously cared for and nurtured him every day, attending to his every need, treating him as my own child. Tanchu claimed he was born into a pitiful state, an orphan with no parents, the forsaken child of a sworn brother. He said he took him in out of pity, but I raised him for all these years, only for him to turn out to be an ungrateful wretch I could never truly win over. I pulled myself up, stopped wallowing in self-pity, glanced at my sleeping baby, and hurried out the door, knowing time was of the essence. I've made up my mind. This marriage is absolutely over, so I need to make thorough preparations to be able to leave. The most crucial thing is to ensure that my baby has had to endure hardship with me. I went straight to the supply and marketing cooperative. I worked so hard to get this job opportunity. Why on earth should I just hand it over to someone else? When I arrived at the cooperative, the boss recognized me and greeted me, saying, I was actually waiting for you to start work, but I never expected. You're so fortunate. Your husband can't bear the thought of you working. So that's what he told the boss, to get Liang Yuan to take over my job. He took it upon himself to go straight to the boss and arrange for Liang Yuan to come. All under the guise of being a model husband. If he's so keen on selfless devotion, why doesn't he give his sister's job to his dear widowed sister-in-law? I explained this situation to the boss and assured him I would definitely be coming to work, starting immediately tomorrow. The boss's wife was very understanding and assured me she would keep my position open for me. She even said I could bring my baby to work if I needed to, after sorting out my job. I went to inquire about divorce proceedings. I knew I couldn't take the house, but as for the other things, the radio, the television, and the bicycle, I was determined to get them. On my way back, Auntie Jean from the neighboring village spotted me from afar. She beckoned me over, looking all secretive. She's my mother-in-law's sworn enemy. Exactly. Usually, the two of them have nothing to do with each other. I shuffled over to her side, and she didn't seem annoyed. Is your Qin Chuan treating you well? Seeing my confused expression, she went on without waiting for a reply. Girl, you're really tolerant. He's already moved his ex-wife back in, the whole family. You don't have any thoughts about this cozy little scene. TSK. I saw her today, lugging all sorts of bags from the supply co-op, loaded down with a whole pile of stuff. That money and those tickets were all from your Tanchuan, weren't they? You're just too kind. Oh, right. Your stepson was also born to that woman. Aren't you afraid that one day they'll reconcile and kick you out? Really? Hearing those words, a buzzing filled my ears and my mind went blank. For a moment, I couldn't hear a thing. My sanity was shattered into pieces. It was all lies. How dare they? If they had been honest with me and discussed it properly, treating me with sincerity, I might have been reasonable. But what did they do? They brought the person in without a word. And only then put on a show of asking my opinion, and once my opinion didn't suit them, it became my fault. The whole family turned against me. Does Tanchu want to get back together with his ex-wife? What a disgusting excuse to fob me off with. His widowed sister-in-law. Fine, just fine. The whole family is lying to me. They all think I'm a fool. I left with a quick word and hurried to find Lin Xiang. I understand now. Thank you, Auntie Zhang. When I arrived at Lin Xiang's home, the atmosphere was very oppressive. She told me that the wave of layoffs might be coming, and her husband had received. Word is, several provinces and regions have already been hit by massive layoffs, forcing many middle-aged and young people out of work. A slew of problems will follow, with famine being the worst-case scenario. Nuanyuan, you need to be prepared, especially that idiot Tan Chu. He actually traded 60 Jin worth of grain coupons for just a few movie tickets. The guy's completely out of his mind. If the layoff wave really hits here, you'll starve to death if you stick with him. I told Lin Xiang everything I'd found out. Her husband was so furious he immediately wanted to give him a piece of his mind on my behalf, but I just made one request: to help me get a divorce from him as soon as possible. I need to secure what's rightfully mine before the wave of layoffs hits. When I got home, I could hear laughter and cheerful chatter from inside. It was a picture of domestic bliss, with no one concerned about where I'd been. The moment I opened the door, the laughter inside stopped dead. Without looking at them, I went straight to the bedroom to check on my baby. After I entered the inner room, Tan Chuan brought over a bowl of soup. I noticed you haven't eaten much. This is a brown sugar and egg soup I made for you. It is brown sugar, and the eggs are from Mom. To make it up to you. She said you've been working hard lately. Finally, he added, this is just for you. No one else gets any, not even Liang Yuan. Can you stop sulking now? In his eyes, my current behavior is just me sulking, being unreasonable, stewing in my own resentment, and being jealous. But I've figured it out now. I'm giving myself 1 week. Once I've made all the preparations and secured a life for me and my baby, I'll leave, divorce him, and let his family be reunited. I didn't stand on ceremony. I took the soup and started drinking. My baby still needs breast milk, so I can't afford to neglect myself. After finishing, I put the bowl down. The spot where the TV used to be was now occupied by a box. I thought he'd had a change of heart, but it was all a setup, trading a bowl of egg drop soup for a television. That's some shrewd bargaining. Tan Chu noticed my gaze and explained awkwardly, Kuer has been pestering to watch TV, and if we keep it in our bedroom, it'll disturb the baby. So, where did you move it to? Oh, I just remembered. When I passed by Liang Yuan's house earlier, the whole family was gathered in there. Turns out they got a television. I let out a dry laugh. Whose idea was this? You moved the dowry I brought when we got married into another woman's bedroom. Must you keep calling her another woman? She's your sister-in-law. I just don't understand why you can't accept her. What harm could one person possibly do? Is she really such an eyesore to you? Is this all about that movie ticket? Fine, I promise you, next time I can get one, I'll let you have it. We'll go see it, and I'll make sure it's fair and square. Happy now. You never even have time to watch TV, so why are you hogging it? You're acting like a total miser. What difference does it make which room the TV is in? I glanced at the sleeping baby. desperately holding back my emotions. After walking into the living room, I sneered at him. Are you sure you've been fair and just? I pointed at the pile of things in Liang Yuan's room. How long have I been married to you? Have you ever bought me as much as she bought today? A whole 60 Gene worth of grain coupons, and you just let her trade them away. I traded it, and it's only enough for one movie ticket. Do you think that's fair to me? The television set is part of my dowry. No one is taking it. If you want it, you'll have to pay for it. It's not the right time yet. I can't just blurt out divorce in the heat of the moment. I need to use this time to convert anything I can into cash or ration coupons. If it can be traded, then trade it. I'd like to see how they'll react when famine strikes. Will they go crazy over all these things they can only look at but not eat? He gave me a long, hard look, muttered unbelievable, and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Noticing the commotion on my end, Liang Yuan glanced over, a slight smirk playing on her lips. She showed off the new clothes she'd bought that day and, holding her stepson in her arms, asked pointedly, Xiao Ke, do you prefer staying in my room or Auntie Nuanyuan's room? I've got toffees and a TV to watch over here, you know. I dashed straight to her room, snatched up the TV in no time, and turned to leave. Liang Yuan was stamping her feet behind me, while Qin Ku was wailing his eyes out, calling me a mean, horrible person. My in-laws rushed out from the inner room, shouting after me. But how could they ever hope to catch up with my pace? I sold the television set to the supply and marketing cooperative, exchanged it for food ration coupons, and tucked them into my own pocket. The shopkeeper recommended some newly arrived infant formula to me. I bought it without a second thought. From today on, my child and I won't scrimp anymore. Ever since I married Tan Chuan, his household has been large. With him as the sole breadwinner for the entire family, money was tight. To spare him the hardship, I had to count every penny and live frugally, but when he spent 60 caddies of grain ration tickets without batting an eye, I stopped feeling sorry for him. When we got home, Chinka was still there, sniveling and throwing a tantrum, while everyone else was busy trying to soothe him. In the bedroom, Tan Quan had been waiting for me all along. The baby was already awake, beaming at me with a happy smile. All the anger and tension drained from my body. I took out the formula I had bought and prepared to make a bottle. Seeing this, Tan Chu moved to help, but I ignored him. My baby loved it, with an expression that seemed to say, so this is what real food tastes like. Supplies were scarce, and my own milk wasn't enough. Most days, I could only feed my little one rice porridge. Today, we finally splurged. I won't let my baby suffer with me anymore. You sold the TV, didn't you? Seeing that I didn't answer, he said sullenly, I was wrong before. I admit I've been neglecting you lately. Here, I borrowed these food, ration coupons, and some money. Take it all. If he gives it, I'll take it. It's what I'm owed. The night passed without a word. I slept with the baby, while he slept alone outside. I treated him as if he were heir. Seeing me about to leave so early in the morning, my mother-in-law stood at the door, stamping her feet in agitation. Nuan Nuan, could you go out and borrow some grain? Our rice jar is completely empty. A child as young as Chinka has been going without. If you don't eat your fill, I'm afraid it will affect your health. When her son traded 60 caddies of grain ration coupons for movie tickets and let my baby go hungry, she said as if it were nothing. We all went through that, but now, just because her grandson might miss one meal, she expects me to swallow my pride and go begging for food. My mother-in-law is a master of this kind of manipulation. She's got me pegged. She knows I won't just stand by and do nothing. All these years since I married into this family, she's hinted, both openly and subtly, that I should spend my own money, my own dowry. Mom, didn't you and Dad say I shouldn't worry about the food ration coupons? And didn't you say it's no big deal if a child goes hungry for a few meals, that it would actually make them easier to raise? She was taken aback, clearly not expecting me to talk back to her like that. Oh, by the way, the baby and I have been eating at Lin Xiang's place these past few days. And I borrowed 10 Gene worth of grain coupons. If you have any, give them to me so I can return them. Well, I don't have that either. Afraid I might ask for more. She quickly slipped away, not daring to speak her mind outright, since Tan Chu's factory had already begun downsizing. If any scandal involving men and women were to erupt at home, Tan Chu would surely lose his job. So many people were eyeing his position with envy, and many others were starting to tighten their purse strings, unwilling to lend out their family's grain stores. I took advantage of their inattention to quickly take some convertible items to the supply and marketing cooperative. With just 3 days left, I left them with my head held high. The usually bustling street began to feel deserted today. with a few shopkeepers huddled together to discuss a plan. Have you received any stock lately? I haven't gotten a delivery in days. And I can't even reach the supplier I had the order with. I have no choice but to raise the price on the little stock I have left. Yeah, it's really strange. The goods used to arrive on time, but now it's been days and they still haven't shown up. The harvest hasn't been good either. If this keeps up, we'll starve sooner or later. You can't be serious. Could a famine really be coming? Hearing this, I quickened my pace and headed straight for the supply and marketing cooperative. The shopkeeper's wife saw me and immediately thrust a letter into my hands, saying, "Lin Yuan, come quick. Is this letter for you?" It was from my parents, mailed 2 weeks prior. A vague sense of dread washed over me. Something serious was truly about to happen. Sure enough, my parents wrote that several major grain-producing provinces had failed to harvest their crops and were beginning to experience famine. They urged me to leave at once. I'll go to them, as long as they're around. I'll never go hungry. Second brother was an itinerant peddler, traveling far and wide all year round, which made his information the most reliable. Lin Xiang also came to the supply and marketing cooperative with her husband. I immediately prioritized her, exchanging several dozen caddies of grain along with grain coupons and meat coupons for her, and took the opportunity to pass on the news I had received from home. So I stocked up on a good amount of dried goods, meat, and grain. I tried to soothe the worry in Lin Xiang's eyes. It's fine, you all get ready first. I'll go with you tomorrow. I'm almost done here. If a famine really does hit, just hoarding supplies won't be enough. When that time comes, the terrifying side of human nature will be laid bare. Arson, rape, and looting. Danger can strike at any moment. The most important thing is to keep your distance and stay safe. After seeing Lin Xiang off, Tan Chu arrived late with Liang Yuan in tow. Liang Yuan was dressed exquisitely, looking more like she was out shopping than coming to work. Upon seeing me, Liang Yuan immediately stopped my busy figure. "Yuan, you can go back and take care of the baby. I'll handle this. This job is mine from now on." She's so shameless. Do you have no shame? Why should you take over what I'm doing my job perfectly well? You want to freeload without putting in any effort. That's just ridiculous. My blunt words made her flush with anger and embarrassment. Qin Chuan stepped forward, lowering his voice. "Didn't we agree? You'd give this job to Liang Yuan, and you'd stay home to take good care of little Bao. Isn't that better? What exactly do you want? I can give it to her, but I have 2 conditions. First, we get a divorce. I don't need any of the household items, but I want the household savings." There was 120 yuan left before Liang Yuan came. "I'll take that. Plus 50 yuan as compensation for this job. Second, I'm keeping the baby." He pulled me outside. "Have you lost your mind? You want a divorce over a job? You weren't like this before." I just stared at him, dead in the eye, wondering how he could have the nerve to argue with me without so much as a blush or a flicker of guilt. "So, Liang Yuan is your ex-wife, right? And Tan Ku is her son. If you wanted to bring her home, you could have just said so. I would have parted ways with you amicably. But you had to go and spin this disgusting lie. Doesn't it make you sick?" He blurted out instinctively. "How did you see? Your first instinct was to keep me in the dark for as long as possible. You never even considered telling me the truth. Your whole family, you're making a fool out of me. Now you want to give all my work to her. What are you really up to? Are you just waiting for the right moment to throw me and little Bao out on the street?" He tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. He looked utterly remorseful. "I'm sorry, I was wrong. I thought I could handle it. The truth is, I was married to Liang Yuan back then, but later, after the famine hit and we got separated, I was introduced to you. I felt I wasn't good enough for you. So when my mother told the matchmaker I was unmarried and that Chinka was a foundling, I didn't correct her. I was terrified of losing you. I can't take it anymore. Lin Xiang's husband will be bringing the divorce papers over soon. We'll get divorced immediately. Don't force me to make a scene. This is all your fault, isn't it? Get me up." With that, I dove headfirst into the supply and marketing cooperative. Now, whatever I say, they have no choice but to agree. Liang Yuan looked at me with even more smugness from the side, as if to say she had won her husband back. But she doesn't know that from this moment on, Tan Chu will forever feel guilty toward me, and he will spare no effort to fulfill any request I make. I don't know where Qin Chuan got the money, but he met all my conditions, yet he still looked at me with that hopeful gaze. "Yuan, can't you stay? I'll have Liang Yuan move out. Now that she has a job, she should be able to support herself. What about Chinka? She's his mother. Can you really stop her from seeing him? And besides, your family would rather have Liang Yuan back, wouldn't they, the way we've treated her?" It's only because our hearts ache for how much she's suffered all these years. Yes, in their eyes and hearts, they always feel guilty and sorry for Liang Yuan, so I became the sacrificial lamb. But why me? Why should I be the one sacrificed? Why should I have to put up with this? Why should I be treated so unfairly? He moved his lips, desperate to say something, but it was too late. I would never change my mind. I returned home with Lin Xiang and the others, pulling the ox cart, and loaded all my dowry, clothes, and personal belongings into it. Seeing this, the stepson threw himself on the floor, kicking and screaming at the top of his lungs. You're a bad person. What right do you have to take our things? I won't let you take them. Just then, the mother-in-law came over. Nuan, dear, maybe you should leave the thermos behind. How will Chinka get hot water at night? And that radio too. Can you stay? Lin Xiang shot back, Auntie, these are all Nuan's dowry. It wouldn't be right to leave them here, would it? If you really need them, why not just go buy them at the supply and marketing co-op? After all, your former daughter-in-law had the nerve to take Nuan's job there, didn't she? The mother-in-law immediately fell silent. Tan Chu was still trying to block my way. Our baby is still so little. How can you possibly take care of her all by yourself? I promise I'll cut all ties with Liang Yuan from now on. Can't you please stay, Nuan? I haven't had enough time with you yet. Lin Xiang rushed forward, rolling up her sleeves as a warning. You're the worst kind of scum. You actually brought your ex-wife into our home, and you still dare to stop our Nuan warmth. You still want to be an emperor with a harem. Look at our little Nuan. Do you think you can afford to support a family of 7, by now? Liang Yuan had also returned and was standing to the side, looking dejected. Brother Tan Chu, I'm sorry. I never thought things would come to this between you and Nuan. I never meant to break you two up. I should have just died out there. Then you and Xiao Ke could have lived a peaceful life. With that, she made to hurl herself at the doorframe. Qin Chuan, who was standing closest to her, remained utterly expressionless, showing not the slightest inclination to pull her back. He stopped with a sullen reluctance, walked over to his stepson, picked him up, and began to soothe him. The father-in-law made the final decision. If Lin Yuan wants to leave, let her go. Liang Yuan has always been a member of our Qin family. Qin Chuan, don't throw away the watermelon to pick up a sesame seed. Threw the baby out with the bathwater. I left a note saying, my parents wrote that there's a famine breaking out elsewhere. You're on your own. Tan Chuan has a job, and Liang Yuan works at the supply and marketing cooperative, with only one child at home. If they were to starve, it would truly be fate. It's done. I picked up little Bao and turned to leave. Tan Chuan chased after me, his face etched with misery as he pleaded, Nuan, I was really wrong. How about I take you to the movies at the end of the year? Please don't leave me. Okay, but I would not look back. The further I walked, the more anxious I became. The road south grew increasingly difficult, and the surrounding crops were almost all in a state of decay, a desolate sight as far as the eye could see, no wild game to be found. Lin Xiang's father joked with us, saying that in the old days when famine truly struck, even tree bark would be stripped clean. All along the way, we guarded our belongings carefully. As more and more people headed south, supplies grew increasingly scarce. On the 4th day after we set out, word reached Lin Xiang's husband that the famine had indeed begun to spread to our area. It began with numerous factories shutting down and workers being laid off. Word had it that even Tan Chu's factory was affected. Then, in less than a week, supply and marketing cooperatives started closing their doors. Essential goods became impossible to get, even by fighting for them. People barricaded themselves in their homes, and the more astute ones had already begun packing up their families to head south. However, many of the main roads leading south were blocked, forcing people to turn towards the mountains instead. Our group of over a dozen people meandered for nearly a month before we finally reached the county town where my parents lived. Thanks to the advance warning from my second brother, our family had made thorough preparations to face the coming famine, to help as many others as we could. We also did everything within our power. The days passed in a tense and hurried blur, and my second brother and I went into business together. We jumped at any opportunity to make money, trading in grain, clothing, shoes, and crop seeds. Gradually, we managed to put down roots in the county town. After earning our first pot of gold, the country's breakthrough in hybrid rice technology coincided with a rush by farmers to plant it. We seized the moment, selling agricultural machinery, fertilizer, and buying up the harvest. In less than half a year, I had opened a shop, owned a car, and had more movies to watch than I could ever get through. Later, refugees flooded into the city, becoming its cheapest labor. I saw Tan Chu and Liang Yuan again among their ranks. The two of them came to blows over a single steamed bun. From a distance, I could hear Tan Chu's furious shout, "Liang Yuan, Mom is starving. That bun isn't for you, spit it out right now." They were disheveled and dressed in rags, fighting over scraps of food like wild dogs. As I passed by them in the car, I slowly tossed down a few steamed buns, provoking another frantic scramble. "Tan Quan, you once were willing to spend 60 Gene of grain coupons just to make her smile. How can you now begrudge her even a single bite to eat? Your love is truly cheap." As the car accelerated, I charged forward into the future. My life was just beginning. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.